Hi, I'm Kristen and I teach chemistry at Western Technical College. I was recently part of a HyFlex training group, not because I thought I'm going to teach HyFlex in my classroom, but because I didn't know if I could teach HyFlex in my classroom, and I wanted to learn more about it and perhaps be convinced that it could work in a laboratory setting. Once I got into the training, my wheels started spinning and I spent my time thinking, this seems like something I should do for my students, but how can I do it? I spent the spring semester with lots of trial and error and brainstorming. What I'm going to show you isn't perfect, and it will continuously be a work in progress. But it's my start to creating a HyFlex environment in a place where I initially didn't think it was possible. So I start each class period by giving announcements, discussing upcoming homework, answering questions, and introducing the lab activity for that day. To do this, I use my classroom computer with a webcam that's pointed at me. Now this computer has Zoom running as the host, and it's kind of my control center for the class. I have another computer, a laptop in this situation, pointed at the screen, and it's more zoomed out so you can see a bigger picture of what's happening. But it could be pointed at a whiteboard or even the class. Now the laptop has the audio and mic turned off and muted, and it's just being used as a camera. These cameras could be interchanged with an owl if the class was more lecture-based. Finally, rather than using a whiteboard, I use a bamboo tablet to write on PowerPoint slides so my students can see the notes that I'm making and follow along as I'm solving problems. This screen is shared with my at-home students via Zoom, and it's projected on the screen for my in-class students to see. Little side note on the tablet, this is my single most favorite piece of equipment or technology that I use in my teaching. I've been using some form of this tablet for the last 15 years, and I love it so much I even brought it to my interview here at Western. And I've noticed throughout transitioning to a HyFlex environment that the tablet has become even more important and necessary for my purposes. We're going to need an equation. So this is the equation we're going to use in our lab. We are going to take Fe 3+ ions in aqueous solution, and we're going to combine them with SCN- ions in aqueous solution. And we are going to create an equilibrium reaction where we get FeSCN2+, and it happens to be an ion in aqueous solution. So this is going to be our reaction, our equilibrium reaction. And the reason we're choosing this one, now we don't spend very much time in the lecture setting in my room. We spend most of our time doing group-based laboratory activities. During these activities, I use the same laptop computer that was pointed at the projector earlier, and I also pair it up with a phone that's on a stand. The phone now gets the audio and the microphone, and the laptop stays muted. The reason I have it set up this way is because I needed a way for my video feed to be mobile. Sometimes groups need to work at the fume hood, sometimes they need to record masses at the balances, some lab setups are very tiny, and some take up the entire lab bench. It was important for me to find a system that was somewhat flexible to accommodate all of these different types of laboratory situations and was able to focus in on experiments so viewers at home could make their own observations and, in some cases, their own measurements. Ultimately, I unofficially decided to try this approach to teaching chemistry this semester. I briefly mentioned the possibility that students could Zoom in instead of attending class if they had a situation where they had to stay at home, thinking it may not even be used. Since then, I've had 1 or 2 students every class period need to use it. This has made my students feel as if they're part of my class, even if they have to miss. And oftentimes, they still get to work with their same lab groups. And it has really helped me provide the most streamlined course narrative to my students and has reduced my absent rate incredibly. HyFlex isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to teaching. Different types of classes are going to require different approaches and different pieces of hardware and software. So it's important to be creative, have an open mind, try new things, and see what works and what doesn't. The methods I use in my classroom and lab might not even be the best methods that exist for my setting. So just like with every other aspect of my teaching, I will always be looking for better ways to do what I do.